The book of Judges, session 61. We are in Judges chapter 17. Remember this Levite and this man Micah. They were joining forces and they were starting a new religion and opening a new temple and doing it all thinking that the Lord, in the English Bibles it says the Lord, but we know if you click on that word Lord, it takes you to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, thinking all the time that, they are worshipping Yahuwah and Yahuwah must be happy that they are doing all this for him, although they are doing it with traditions of pagans. So this Levite was happy to dwell with a man, and the young man was unto him as one of his sons. This is in verse 11. So this Levite became like a father. In verse 10, Micah said unto him, Become unto me like a father and a priest. And then in verse 11, the young man became unto him as one of his sons. And this made me think about Matthew 23, verse 15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you go over the sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twice more the child of hell than yourself. This made me think about this verse when this Levite was supposed to search and find a disciple and teach him in the ways of Yahuwah and make him twice as good as himself, where the scribes and the Pharisees were told by Yeshua they were hypocrites because they put so much effort into finding a disciple, somebody that they can really pour all their heart and their soul into. And then they find finally a right, young, eager, passionate young man that's clever and intelligent, and they make them a proselyte. They bring them over to the faith, but then they teach them all these wrong doctrines and all the not as God intended originally in his Torah. Although the scribes and Pharisees were teaching Torah, we know that it was not at all what God intended. That's why the Bible talks about the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. The letter of the law does kill, and the spirit of the law brings life. But it's the same law. It's still the Torah. You keep the Torah because the Spirit has convinced you this is the way you live your life before God. Then the letter of the law is beautiful because you obey the letter of the law. But it's because the Spirit of the law has made you humble and willing to obey the law. Your heart is convinced. Your mind is made up. Your intelligence has been answered. Your questions that you had in your brain hasn't been thrown away. Through the Spirit and through the studying, through the letter and the spirit of the law, you become a proselyte. You become somebody that changes over, a Hebrew, a Ivrit, that crosses over the river from Babylon into the promised land. But this Levite, Micah was already quite bad. But now with this Levite as a father, he becomes even worse. Then verse 13, Micah said, Now that I have a Levite in my house to be my priest, now Yahuwah will be happy and he will do good to me. So for me, that is just one of those moments where you just want to chuckle. It's like some people when they have a cross around their necks. Now that I'm wearing a cross around my neck, nothing bad will happen to me. Some people even use the Torah, trying to use it as a magic spell. Now that I keep the Sabbath, nothing bad's going to happen to me. God must just be my ATM machine. Unfortunately, that is not how the kingdom of God works. So sorry, Micah, verse 13, no, unfortunately not. God has left you because of your paganism. He's not even with you, no matter how much you think you're doing this for him. Judges chapter 18. In those days there was no king in Israel. And in those days the tribe of Dan sought them an inheritance to dwell in. For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them amongst the tribes of Israel. All right, so one of the 12 tribes, the tribes of Dan, was trying to get their land that was promised to them. We remember in Joshua chapter 19, all the land was divided and Dan also got their land. So why exactly their land wasn't allocated to them and why they didn't go and inherit their land, live on it, build their farms, build their houses, why they didn't do that is not 100% clear. And there must be some kind of very deep spiritual prophetic meaning again. As we remember Dan, their position around the tabernacle, they were positioned on the north side where all the pagan idol worship does happen. Dan. There's a couple of places where all the tribes of Israel are mentioned, but then Dan is not mentioned. So we know the word Dan means judge, and it comes from Genesis 49, verse 16. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes. Not only is his blessings from Jacob about judgment, but when he was born, his mother said, Genesis 30, verse 6, God has judged me and heard my voice, and therefore she called him Dan. You can work through the whole Bible. There's lots of places where the 12 tribes are listed. But one of the places, for instance, is in the book of Revelation. At the 144,000, Dan is not listed there. So here in chapter 18 of Judges, we read about the invasion, this effort or journey that Dan starts to get his land back. You know, this tribe wants to get their fair share of the promised land. So, verse 2, and the children of Dan sent of their families 5 men from their coasts, men of valor from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it out. And they said unto them, Go search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they lodged there. All right, so interesting. I'm just asking myself, why on earth would Dan send 5 men of valor, to go search in the Mount of Ephraim? That's my first question. Why are you searching here? I mean, if we go to the book of Joshua chapter 19, you can see exactly where the borders is of the land that was promised to you. You know exactly what parcel of land is your inheritance. Why on earth are you walking to and fro across your brother's pieces of land? What have you got to do in Mount Ephraim anyway? When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite. Interesting. So, of all the places, again, coincidentally, that these men could have stayed, they chose to stay at Micah's house. Micah seemingly representing Yahuwah, but secretly or openly actually, with his false Levite, with his false images and his molten graven idols and his mother that sold a soul, they're worshipping the demons behind the statues and the idol images. So why on earth did these 5 men of valor from Dan end up in Micah's house? Always so interesting. And somehow these 5 men of valor from Dan somehow knew the Levite from Bethlehem, Judah. So they said to him, Who brought you here? What are you doing here? Why are you in this place? Who has brought you here? So Dan, judgment, wants to know what on earth, what the heck is a Levite from the tribe of Judah doing in Ephraim? Never mind in Ephraim, but in a house full of pagan gods. Let me say this again. Dan wants to know from a Levite that is from Bethlehem, Judah, what the heck he's doing in a temple for idols that an Ephraimite has built? I find this to be an excellent question. It's a question for today. God's judgment wants to know what Ephraim and Judah is busy with all these false idols and all these houses and these temples and these things they are busy with. What the heck are you doing? Where are you coming from? Who even brought you here? This is not where you're supposed to be. Then he said unto them, Thus and thus dealt Micah with me, and he has hired me, and I am his priest. And they said unto him, We ask you, please, ask counsel from Yahuwah, that we may know whether our way, which we will go, will be prosperous. Okay, fair enough question. After all, this is a Levite priest. So, being a Levite priest, you probably have a better relationship with God than me and my friends have. Most people look up to their pastors and their preachers and think, they must pray for me. They must hear what God says. I cannot ask God myself. They must ask him. They are my prophet. Let this or that person dream a dream for me, or let this or that person interpret my dreams. Not that I'm so crazy about every Tom, Dick, and Harry's dreams these days. Let this or that person pray for me because they've got a higher standing with God. I don't agree with that. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. These people come to the Levite and they say, You must now please ask Yahuwah for us. We want to know if the way in which we are currently going, if it will be prosperous. This journey, this invasion, this search that we have been sent upon. But in the same time, when they entered the house, they saw the idols. So how can you go to a person where you can still see the idols in his life, you can still see false doctrines, you can still see pagan traditions and satanic religious icons that these people are clinging to, and they don't want to let it go. They don't want to leave Egypt or Sodom and Gomorrah or Babylon behind. They're still clinging to their crosses and their symbols and their sun worship traditions, and some of them have maybe left all that behind, but they are definitely still clinging to a false image of God, or a false image of Jesus, or a false image of Yeshua, not truly seeing that Yeshua is the Word, every word that left the mouth of God, and he is supposed to be obeyed and followed in a holy way. But people are still clinging to that false image they had of Jesus being freed and rescued from the burden of complete obedience in everything. I meet lots of people like that. They become obedient to the Sabbath. They become obedient to eating clean according to God's will. But the rest of the laws, no, they don't keep Christmas, they don't keep Ishtar, but they also don't want to keep any of the feast days that God commanded. They believe they're going to heaven. They believe that the moment they die, somebody is immediately up on the lap of Abraham or Jesus or somebody. They don't want to do the Bible studies. They don't want to be confronted with the truth. And yet people still stream to people like these because they think they have a higher standing with God. And even if you meet somebody that has a perfect relationship with God and is perfectly obeying the law, like Moses was perfectly obeying everything, except when he hit the rock, and we did a whole huge Bible study on that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't been with us long enough. There's a very good Bible study on the YouTube channel under Yachts and Tittles about Moses. And people came to Moses for advice and for, what does God say about this? What does God say about that? But here in the book of Judges, there's no king. And all the tribes are in their own respective areas. And these people are supposed to now cultivate their own relationship with Yahuwah. Yahuwah has distributed the tribe of Levi amongst all the tribes. That's why he didn't give Levi a specific piece of land. He said from the beginning, and we discussed this in detail during the Exodus Bible studies, he specifically made sure that every tribe has some of the priests with them to help them remember the Torah, read the Torah, learn everything about God, and have fellowship. So, but each and every person, and this is for us today, we are supposed to learn to trust God, to learn to hear His voice, to learn to speak to Him as well. But these 5 men of valor from Dan went to the Levite. Although they saw that he was a priest for idols, he still thought, well, let's ask him to ask of Yahuwah, as if Yahuwah is just another God and he will answer a person even if the person doesn't worship him alone as the only God. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. You may have no other God before me. As if this God who said that will now answer people's prayers that are worshipping false images. Anyway, and the priest said unto them, Go in peace before Yahuwah. He is in your way wherein you go. So he says to them, Don't worry. Yahuwah says everything is fine with you. There's no judgment. There's no worries. There's no trouble. Just be happy. Have a good, lekker, comfortable relationship. Blah, 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 blah. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 2. Preach the word. Be instant in season and out of season. Reprove when necessary. Rebuke. Exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. So yes, you have to be patient, and you must love, you mustn't judge. Yes, you must have long suffering, but also you must have doctrine. You must have truth. You must be able to rebuke according to the standard that Scripture sets. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. A time will come where they will not want to be judged anymore, where they not want to be questioned anymore. They just want to have something nice, After their own lust shall they heap for themselves teachers that will answer according to their own lust. They've got itching ears. They turn their ears away from the truth, and they just want people to come and scratch their itchy ears. So these 5 men of valor, their ears were itching. They wanted to have a word from Yahuwah, whether their journey will be successful or not. So this Levite is typically a nice ear scratcher. How many ear scratchers do you know? They will come and scratch your ear just so that you choose them and like them and love them. Yep, that's definitely not me. I haven't been trying to scratch many ears. In fact, I have made many people angry. People don't always like me. They don't like the fact that I'm swearing now and again. So I'm definitely not an ear scratcher. Apologies for that. And there's so many ear scratchers in this world. And here, this little Levite ear scratcher tell these 5 men, God is with you. Which God? The false gods that you see here in the house of Micah? No, Yahuwah is with you, the creator of heaven and earth. Why? Who gave him permission to speak for Yahuwah and to tell these guys that Yahuwah is with him, as if Yahuwah spoke to him? The audacity and the arrogance of the ear scratchers of today. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish and saw the people that were therein how they dwelt carelessly after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure. And there was no magistrate. You know what a magistrate, somebody that keeps the law in a town? There was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything. And they were far from the Sidonians and had no business with any man. And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brethren said unto them, What say you? Hey, how are you? What do you say? And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it's very good. Are you still quiet? Be not slothful or lazy to go. Let us enter and possess the land. When you go, you shall come unto a people secure and to a large land, for God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. Interesting. We all want to go to heaven. We know heaven is coming down. We are not actually going up to heaven. Yeshua and Yahuwah is coming down to live on earth. But we all have this idea of heaven on earth, this idea of paradise, this idea where we will have everything will just be perfect. We will be with God, walk with Him, hear His voice, see His face. No hunger, no thirst, no dying, no murder, no sin, no rape, no darkness, no nothing. Huge, humongous apples falling off the beautiful, perfect trees. So this is all a glorious idea we have, but so does the dark kingdom. So does the people in the world. When they say this is a place where there's want of nothing that is in the earth. This is a place that is perfect. Why is this place perfect? Why, if we take this place, will we want for nothing or will we need nothing? Everything will be just provided to us. Why do they like this place of all the other places on earth? Why do they like this place so much? I'll show you why. Verse 7. The people, first of all, dwelt carelessly. They didn't have a care in the world. They didn't have any problems or issues. No, they lived exactly like they wanted. How could they live like they want? Well, there was no magistrate. There was no judge. There was no nothing. Nothing to spoil their fun, basically. Sounds like paradise for a sinful human being. All right, verse 11. And they went from there of the family of the Danites out of Zorah up to war with 600 men. And they went up and pitched in Kiriath Yearim in Judah. Wherefore they called their place Mahanedan. Mahanedan. Dan means judgment, and Mahane means encampment. So they called that place the camp of Dan. And they passed there unto Mount Ephraim, and they came unto the house of Micah. Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Laish, and said unto their brethren, Do you know that there is a very nice preacher living in that house? In this house of Micah, there is an ephod, the breastplate of the priest, and there are teraphim. Okay, just a reminder, teraphim, you get cherubim, angels, seraphim, and you have archangels. You've got angels with 2 wings, 4 wings, 6 wings. You've got the heavenly creatures. You've got all these things. So a teraphim, I actually thought a teraphim would be some sort of an angel, but it's more like a demon. Teraphim is more like a fallen angel that has become a demon, and people go to this demon and eventually they worshipped him as an idol. That apparently had to do something with healing, because the root word of teraphim is rapha. So that's why it was significant for these 5 men to tell the rest of the tribe of Dan, you know that house over there? There is a priest with an ephod, and there are teraphim, there are idols, and there are graven images and molten images. So consider what you want to do. And they turned towards the house of Micah and came to the young man the Levite and saluted him. And the 600 men appointed him their weapons of war, which were of the children of Dan. And they stood by the entering of the gate. And the 5 men that went to spy out the land went and took the graven image and the ephod and the teraphim and the molten image. And the priest stood in the entering of the gate with the 600 men that had their weapons appointed. And these went into Micah's house and fetched the carved image, the ephod and the teraphim and the molten image. And they said unto the priest, what are you going to do? And the priest said unto them, why are you doing this? What are you doing? And they said unto him, okay, let's just stop here for a second. So first of all, just like the Levites, just like Ephraim, Dan was supposed to serve Yahuwah, not idols. Why, oh why, oh why? Well, they are going up to go into the land of the Sidonians, to go and fetch their inheritance piece of land. Why are they not praying to Yahuwah to be with them? Why are they obviously know about Yahuwah and believe in him, because the 5 spies wanted the Levite to not ask the graven image, but to ask Yahuwah if their journey would be successful. Why would this whole tribe of Dan go and take all these gold and silver and iron and false images and stuff out of the house of Micah? They know this is most now an idol temple. So listen to what they say to the priest as well. In verse 19, hold your peace, lay your hand upon your mouth, and rather just come with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Do you remember Micah asked him to be his father and his priest? Judges 17 verse 10. Micah said unto him, dwell with me and be unto me a father and a priest. But here comes the 600 men of Dan with all their weapons of war, and they said to him, be unto us a father and a priest. It is better for you to be a priest unto the house of 600 people than to be a priest on the house of one man. Rather be a priest unto a whole tribe than you are a priest unto just one stupid small family. And the priest's heart, this Levite from Bethlehem, Judah, his heart was glad, and he took the ephod, the teraphim, the graven image, and he went in the midst of the Danite people. So they turned and departed, and put the little ones and the cattle and the carriage before them. Okay, I'm going to stop here. They put their little ones and their cattle and their carriage before them to go to war. So who meets the enemy first? The little ones, the cattle and the carriage. These people are really, tickling my feathers today. Secondly, typically of power, power grabs money. Power hungry people always goes for money. Corruption always goes for money. You can steal somebody's soul. You can have his soul for money. There's no loyalty. Remember in the previous session we talked about these massive 2 big religions of the world today. The one that is from the lost sheep of the house of Israel that started doing sun god worship, together with somebody from the Bethlehem, Judah area that represents the whole sacrificial system of Father Yahuwah, this Levite, representing the Judaism side of religion. How these 2 religions comes together. Both of them wanting or thinking or claiming to worship Yahuwah, but the one of them doing it with false sun god traditions, and the other one also doing it with false sun god traditions, and together they just go on their merry way. How these two religions now come together, and how they form maybe a one world religion, we're talking about our days, and how all these religions are nicely taking hands with each other, as we see all over the news and everywhere. But what I can tell you, it won't be long until Mr. Antichrist, with his 600 judgment angels or whatever, comes and starts stealing away amongst the peace of this one world religion. It will all look nice and peaceful, and oh, this is such a nice place. There's nothing you need on earth here. People are living here carelessly. There's no magistrate. We'll only have this Levite who will tickle our ears, who will scratch our ears. It's going to be such a nice new world, new normal. Lekker go. Everybody is just going to accept each other and live nicely in peace together. But there's no loyalty. There's no real prophecy. All these false prophets, even in today, in the one system and the other one, and eventually when they all come together in one world religion, there's none of them are real prophets. A lot of these prophets are making a lot of profit, although their churches are registered as non-profit. But they are false prophets making a lot of profit, but they are non-prophets because they are not prophets. That was a bit of a conundrum for you. And they are leading people down the path that looks acceptable to man, but the end thereof is death. And so these Danites have stolen the poor Levite priest, but he's not so poor. He's now very happy because he's going to be looked after much more. And it's much better to be a priest over 600 people than over only one person. So here's power, here's glory, here's recognition, here's money, here's prestige, here's popularity for you. Choose what you want to do. Choose what's lekker for you. It's the same old serpent promises that we've heard from the beginning. All right, we'll continue with verse 22 tomorrow with this very difficult ending. Judges, the book of Judges decides to end quite difficult. And we're working through it still verse by verse, and we will get to the end of it, and we will learn from all these end day teachings and training and lessons that God has for us. Shalom.